Welcome to the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast.
I'm Jill from New York.
And I'm Linda from Tasmania.
We are two moms from opposite sides of the world who are living, demonstrating, and helping moms across the world build their self-care asset bank.
Ready to dive in? Messy, interrupted, imperfect, and most of all mucked up. Let's get going. Hello. Just as you hit the button, all of the kids scream. All of the things go on. I'm like,
gotta love it. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, well,
all right. Let's go. So we'll start with highs and lows like we normally do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You go first?
I will go quickly. My kids are approaching. Sorry. Low for me is just all the stuff. I would like to fit so much more in. And reality is I have a 2-year-old who's into everything sometimes, and things happen really quickly. Like drawing on walls and poo on carpet and flooding laundries and kitchens and toothpaste all over the floor and I could just keep going. And it's just so time consuming to keep trying to stay on top of things, and then also hearing negative things about you can't keep the house tidy, you can't even, get things done and pick up after yourself and blah, 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 which is not helpful. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's definitely a low. The high for me is we went picking mulberries the other day with a friend. They have a massive mulberry bush in their trees, mulberries. So they grow on trees. They're a cross between like a blackberry and a blueberry, and this massive tree that the kids got to climb and pretending to be pirates on the ship, and got heaps of beautiful fruit, hand-picked, and it was great fun to meet with friends and connect and play and do all the things. Yeah.
Fantastic. I feel you on all of the things.
Oh, yes. I know I am not alone. It's just wearing me down. If all I seem to have capacity for is tidying up constantly, and that's not my life that I want to live right now. That is not my priority, and I've got other things that I would really like to do with my life much more than that.
Oh boy, what do I want? Highs and lows for me. Yes. My high is I was able to attend a postpartum panel discussion recently, which was very, very well done. A new friend from the who found me online connected to go to get interviewed, or at least work together on my other podcast, Mama Outspoken podcast, with me and my husband. So we had him on as a guest, and then we got to attend this panel discussion. And next month, so March, will be the premiere of his film that he did on postpartum depression and anxiety. So it was very, very cool.
Amazing.
To be a part of this. The start of some really great community involvement on educating people about postpartum mood and anxiety disorders. So it was very, very awesome. I got to meet some cool people in person finally. Like I met him in person because we've only met virtually. And then there was another woman who interviewed me last year for a project from a therapy practice that I got to meet in person too. So it was very fun. We didn't even realize that we were both at the same place and that we knew each other until the end. So
I love it when that happens. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And let's see. A low is, I feel like everything's kind of like falling apart in a way.
This is loud.
Yep. I could have used those words. Definitely.
Yeah.
Those words.
I'm talking in the microphone.
I know. I'm talking in the microphone.
Hey, hi, Sadie.
Let's use the podcast as a way to say hello to each other. Oh my gosh! I thought I asked
the look she gave Declan. I have a flag.
Oh, I love it.
Flag in my face as well.
But yeah, falling apart, like everything. And I'm going to be, well, let's tie it in here. Our episode's about vulnerabilities and self-care. I've got a lot of vulnerabilities I can be honest about tonight.
Yeah, I am here.
With things falling apart, like finances is just not my friend.
Nope.
Like you were saying, fitting
Pressure.
all the things I want to do in not happening. And yeah.
The pressure. So much pressure. Yep. And then all of a sudden you've got little people who want to yell in your ear while you're trying to listen and speak. And like, this is my time. This is meant to be my time. Oh. I tried to explain it to my 4-year-old last night that mum needs to recharge her batteries. Otherwise she'll be flat like a pancake. And so when he goes to bed, that's my time to recharge my batteries. And I need a little bit of time to do that. And that's also what self-care is, I guess.
Yeah.
Where's your flashlight?
Yeah.
Yeah, here.
Yeah. Now I've got a ball in my face, almost.
Enough, Declan. Come on.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Real life. This is real life.
This is so very true of how we live. And so when things are falling apart, obviously the vulnerability is higher.
Yeah. Big time.
We would be silly and foolish to think that things won't fall apart sometimes, but it can feel like an avalanche of stuff that seems to all coincide and build up as well. And
what's funny to me is that in our circle, our community, we go by this, slow down to speed up, because we're slowing down enough to understand things, and then we start doing things in a specific order, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, we have this momentum and we are speeding up. But I feel like when things are falling apart, they tend to speed up before they slow down.
Before we can slow down, because we can't necessarily always slow down the things that are happening.
Yeah. And
often they are out of our control. Oh my gosh.
And how often are we able to actually slow down to try and work on those things that are quickly falling apart around us?
When bedtime takes 2 hours. When you can't find the flashlight. When you've got someone who wants to vacuum every time you vacuum as well. Every time I pick up the vacuum, she screams at me too.
Yeah.
It's, I don't have an answer right now in the middle of things falling apart either. And I guess what's interesting is sometimes things falling apart and then you say it out loud and you're like, how crazy does that sound? Like, is that actually true? Or have I been in my head, or maybe influenced by other people's chatter or triggers or stuff? Whoa.
I'm on the same page as you, Linda, because I was just thinking about the other day. I'm like looking back at some things that I thought were like really tough to get through. And I'm like, is it just me that feels like it was like that? Like, if somebody else heard me talk about all of these things that have just felt so heavy and like coming crashing down, or um yeah, like, would anybody else think that that was a light or a heavy lift? And it just makes me then, like, almost question myself and my validity and become even more vulnerable about that. But on this other half of that, um, it's like all the things that we do and we're thinking everything's falling apart around us. So we realize that we had to slow down because we can't keep up with all the things, like keeping up with the house or the kids or all of the appointments we have and the work things and fitting them all in and where we need to. And other people from the outside are like, you do so much. And we are just thinking,
Exactly.
we are
Yeah.
not doing anything. We've gotten nothing done except
We are falling apart.
focused on something. Everything else is falling apart around us. And we do need that outside perspective sometimes, because we're not seeing that actually, no, we did a lot just in today. And it may have been just more so decisions or, cognitive exercises and not necessarily physical things that feel like they were accomplished.
Yeah, or the emotional regulation that we constantly need
Yeah.
while other people are reacting.
Tantrum, control.
While kids are dysregulated or needing extra. We just had school start yesterday.
And it's super hot where you guys are too. So like the heat and not having the ability to cool off, especially like when you and I got together earlier this week, Linda, you guys, it was 95 degrees and no
9
air.
p.m.
And at 9 p.m., like that's rough.
Yeah.
So after a day of that and still no sleep, because all the kids can't sleep because it's too dang hot, it puts us in a super vulnerable position.
Yeah.
But
If you don't mind sharing, what's one of the most vulnerable things or situations you've found yourself in at the moment while things are falling apart? Only if you want to share. I know it can be hard to be vulnerable in front of a podcast microphone too.
Sometimes I feel that it's okay. So the most vulnerable is it's the week before I get my cycle starts, when I am on my lowest low. But if you put me at church during that week where it falls like just beforehand, and there's just a cycle, not just with my body, but a cycle with our vibes in the house, it feels like, where Declan feeds off of me. And so he can tell where I am going into a depressive mode. And then he's rambunctious. But church is where I am probably the most vulnerable, because I have such big responsibilities and I can't control him, that I am most embarrassed by his actions, and my reactions I have to be extremely careful with because of the position I feel that I am in there. However, they're just as much of a community as the others that I surround myself with anywhere else. So I've learned to put my trust in them and allow myself to walk away from him in moments of that weakness, where I have to stop myself from parenting like I would at home, because he doesn't deserve that. And I don't need to parent like that, in my worst moments in anywhere else. But there are times where people see the frustration on my face there. It's become more difficult to hide it the older he's gotten during those weeks of hormonal craziness. And that's probably where I'm my most vulnerable, is allowing others to see that and then parent with me when we're at church. And there's a select few that really step into to help out when they notice it. So it has been kind of a practice to make sure that I don't go crazy trying to parent him the way I would at home. Because, yeah, like I said, he doesn't deserve that, and I shouldn't be doing that no matter what. But we all have our cliffhanger moments, it
Yeah,
feels
exactly.
like we're
Mhm.
are
Yep.
at our wits' end.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Mm,
Yeah. So,
absolutely. Wits end. Okay. Tiggy, can you take your bluey picture out to the table for me, sweetie?
oh man, but there's definitely some vulnerable moments when I am like specifically in that week. But how about for you? Do you recognize
Yep. It's
some
the 2
vulnerable?
days, the 2 days before my cycle starts that I'm generally really not at my best. And it's more about situation I'm in at the moment with having 2 parents in the house, but not together in a way that's really working cohesively or as a team all the time, and not in relationship, etc. So
Mhm.
that's definitely what pushes me, and that's just for lots of reasons. Circumstance has led us here, but oh gosh, I could think of so many, but even just last night. So I was doing bedtime on my own. We just grabbed a quick dinner. It wasn't anything, just a chicken and rice and veg sort of thing. And so dinner was a little bit disjointed. And then I said to the kids, I feel really overwhelmed right now. I just need you to help me get things in order. And so they did. They worked beautifully. Siggy was vacuuming. Quinn was unpacking the dishwasher. Alex was putting the bins out. Josh was wiping down tables and clearing out clutter. And I was scrubbing dishes. And everybody just thinked together.
Mm.
And it was just, and then in half an hour before bedtime, everything was a little bit neater and put together. And then I had somebody else come home and say, what about the dish in the sink, which was soaking because there'd been a burnt slice the night before. And for a start, Alex wasn't even on dishes. And I was trying to put little people to sleep and calm big people down. And I just snapped pretty hard. Because all you could see, in my mind, all you could see was that dish in the sink and not all of the other stuff we'd just done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, bedtime just became
A hot mess.
elevated and a mess. And my heart was racing. And so trying to calm them down. And that took quite a while, and etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
It's hard to come back from moments where we've become so vulnerable and had that crash, and like the crash and burn, and like now, like, how do we fit in self-care for ourselves to put a band-aid on that in a way? Like, how do we give ourselves the grace to be like, we're gonna have those days where we've come to a point and we know we have to I don't know. We have to kind of like, we have to now explain it in a way, like why it happened, because people are affected by our blowouts when it comes up.
Yep.
And really, is it because, you guys were having a great evening getting everything cleaned up, so it's not like you had that cleanup time beforehand suck out all of the energy from you. You probably even had some of it replaced with everybody helping out and
I
putting it in
did.
there.
And I
But
think it was the contrast that hit me so hard.
Mhm.
It then felt like it was
The
2 steps
appreciation.
forward, 2 steps forward, 16 back, you
Yeah.
know?
So it's like curious, like where else was there a little bit of a leak that allowed that moment to escalate for
Oh, it's
everybody? And it's like, well, then how do we go in and repair that leak with more self-care? And I'm sure you're not even feeling great today. And like self-care is probably the last thing on your mind.
Mhm.
And so what
Mhm.
are you doing today to
Well, we have been to the playground already this morning.
okay.
So, yeah. Um, so there is that already. Yeah. It's just hard when somebody else focuses on one thing and you've just
Yeah.
managed 20.
Mhm. It's like, look at everything else that happened though. Like, why?
Mm. Mhm.
Yes. Ugh.
Yeah.
I think I had a very similar situation happen and I like to the T.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Oh my god. I think we all
And
that night.
no. And look, we've talked about mental load a fair bit. And I just wrote an article about mental load as well and the
Oh,
imbalance of care that's happening
we can find that on
still.
your Substack page
Mhm.
there?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes maybe.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it like I think I explained in the article, it's not just about changing the sheets, right? It's remembering when the last time the sheets were changed,
Mhm.
and then remembering who likes what pillows in what order, and then remembering to flip the mattresses every little once in a while. It's remembering that my 10-year-old likes rubber bands on the edges of the doona cover so that the doona stays in place like at the moment. So he likes that. It's trying to make the bed while you've got 2 kids jumping all over it. It's
Yeah.
folding fitted sheets. Cannot do at all. But it's not just about folding. Like that sounds like the simplest thing. It's changing the sheets. It's
Mhm.
remembering to ask your husband, partner, person. It's remembering to ask someone to do it because often they won't do it without being asked.
Yep.
It's asking in a way that doesn't sound like nagging or lecturing.
Yeah.
It's asking at the right moment. It's not asking at all because you just do it yourself. It's hanging them on the line instead of leaving them in the machine for 2 days. Like there's so much more to it than is just folding sheets. Oh, changing beds. See?
Yeah.
So much more.
It definitely is. What were you just saying? I was definitely going to say something that you mentioned. I can't get my crap together and remember when to change the sheets on my bed.
Yeah.
Without something on my calendar. So
Yeah. And then I see it on my calendar sometimes and I'm like, oh, not today. Not today. It can wait. It can wait.
yeah. I had to go ahead and create like a chore list.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like it helped a little bit with the mental load, but also now it's like because I didn't print out the chore list for the last couple of months, nobody's done any chores in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And
We're still picking up the majority. I hate to. I wish it was different. And look, there are some men who are beautifully doing their fair share. I'm sure, but again, it's a slightly different way that we've been taught, or that we think, or that we manage a household, that just, and again, it shouldn't be compared, but there needs to be lists and reminders and conversations and everything else as well.
Yeah. And I know what I was going to say before, but you had mentioned like asking without sounding like you're nagging, and that's probably one of my biggest, that's probably the biggest problems between me and my husband. And it's my problem is with my tone of voice. And it's also now, spilling over into my son's, like how we interact with how I ask or talk back stuff. And, it's not my my favorite part about me. And I think I'm being sarcastic, or I'm asking it in just, an annoyed way, but not trying to be mean about it. But it comes across as very much the opposite and creates a lot of tension. And it's probably why I would get a reaction of like, well, what happened to that one little thing left in the sink? And then that's when the blow up happens, because, I'm usually coming back out with some kind of a tone that wasn't called for, and I don't notice it.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
And then we stop asking.
Yes.
Which only adds to the extra pressure and vulnerabilities.
And then I think really kicks out self-care from being a priority, because now we have the full weight of the mental load, like we call it, a backpack. Like it's just all on our backs, all of the things that we're constantly having to remember, not just chores in the house, but now it's everyone's appointments. It's all of the things that we're doing for work. I mean, being work from home moms, entrepreneurs running their own businesses, it's not just we can leave that stuff at work where we have someplace to leave it. Is just part of our lives. So that is included in that backpack. So that's why I really like sticky note time, because it does help at least get that, like the big thoughts out of my head, and some kind of a plan where I can then see what other ways can I get some of the other routine kind of stuff, like our chores, onto some kind of a plan, which is why I have the printout, because that really helped out a lot.
Exactly.
So I think I have to go back there.
I think you probably need to do an episode with Bobby about tone and voice and conversations and house delegations, etc.
Yeah, because that was a big problem with my rage during my postpartum period anyway. So might be in the lineup for tonight too. As I'm on a roll for recording.
Sure. Yeah. So yes, that's probably something we haven't talked about very much. Jill, you have started a podcast with your husband Bobby as well. So that's a branch off from this one, getting the confidence on this one. 95 episodes in.
Yes, finally being like, okay, let's start this one back up. I started it in 2021 with him for the lift, and then we dropped it because it was a very heavy lift. But now, being on 4 podcasts, it's like, why not add another one in?
We'll have to put that link in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So,
well,
I think this is a good place to wrap this conversation up.
Yeah, feeling cracked wide open.
I feel like our vulnerabilities will be still coming up in our future episodes just as much as in this one. So stay tuned and join us back in here. We have some fun episodes coming up, some fun celebrations coming up.
Yeah, approaching 100.
100 episodes. We're getting so close to have that celebration. So,
yeah.
So
until next week.
Yeah. Until next week, Linda.
You had one thing? One thing? No. I jumped the gun.
Good. For now, we hope you can unstuck your muck.
Exactly. Right. Bye.
Bye.